Tonight's episode of Malden Talks. We're at the Ward 6 Community Meeting, being hosted by Councillor Dave Kamel. We have in attendance, from what I can see, Councillor at Large Steve Winslow. We have Councillor at Large Debbie DiMaria. We have Councillor at Large Craig Spadafora, Chief Molis, and our host, Councillor Dave Kamel.
All right, folks, we're going to get started in a minute. Everybody's ready? Yeah, I want to thank everybody. So I wanted to say thank you for everybody coming out tonight. I know everybody's busy, got families and other stuff you want to do, so to come out and be part of your community, I want to thank you for that. It's important that we do that, so thank you very much for that. I want to, the first thing I have up here is ways to stay connected, because that's the one thing I want to make sure I emphasize, that everybody walks out of here. You have my phone number and my email. I want to let you know different places you can contact me in social media. I also want to talk about the fact we're going to have office hours. It's going to be the second Thursday of every month at 6:30 p.m. at Franny's. So I'll just be down there. They are still open at 6:30. I'll be down there with a cup of coffee. And come on down if you want to. You want to come down and talk to me about anything, whatever's on your mind. Tonight I wanted to kind of stay focused on us problems. I'm going to have a pad of paper out here for anything that's very specific. If you've got a specific tree limb, a specific pothole, whatever it is, please put it down on this pad of paper so we can focus together on things that affect us all. So I'll put that over there for everybody. And I want to make sure everybody knows what our other resources the City of Malden has, not specifically me, but Steve's Lake Fix is a great tool that we have. Again, about those things that are tree limbs, that are about potholes, anything within the city, parking issues that you want to see resolved, that haven't been resolved. Put them up there. These guys love to see it. And then also there's the Malden social media list. There's an entire list here of different ways that you can keep abreast of what's going on with the City of Malden. And the mayor reminded me to let you guys know, out on YouTube, if you look for the City of Malden, you can find his recent State of the City address. So that will have a lot of information about things that have been going on in Malden. All of this stuff, I know it's a lot of stuff on one slide, but I'm going to be sending out a PDF of all of these slides, this entire presentation, to anybody who said yes to the email newsletter. That'll be one of the first things I send out with the newsletter. And on an ongoing basis, I'm going to try to dump a lot on you tonight, and I apologize, but on an ongoing basis, we'll start doing it more on a quarterly basis of these things. We'll start seeing them come out there. So, I know not everybody likes to sit at home and watch MATV on Tuesday nights and what's going on with the council. Sometimes it's thrilling, sometimes it's not. So tonight's agenda, what we want to go through, definitely want to get through the stuff on the left here and touch on a few things. Public safety, getting around, our new city hall that's going to be coming online soon. And then one of the big things in the news, obviously, and I know everybody's interested in, is an update what's been happening with the cannabis legislation with both the zoning and the licensing process. I'm also going to try to press you into service to volunteer for our cleanup events and for 4th of July. We'll see if you want, when you signed up, there were some columns there if you want to help out on those events. We would absolutely love your help. It's more than just work. You get to get up there and get to be good friends with a bunch of your neighbors who are, a lot of them are here tonight. So thank you. And then I want to just touch upon some future meetings. Some things we're not going to be able to get into great detail tonight because we want to be out of here. Somebody told me the Facebook invite said until 9:30. That is not true. Don't worry. aiming for 8 o'clock. So as we go through these things, I want to take a couple of questions and then sort of move on and save some time at the end for more free-form discussions so you guys can bring up other issues that I may not have brought on here. So again, all of this stuff I'll send out to you if you want. And if you didn't sign up, you don't want the email newsletter, and you just want to email me directly, I'll send it to you. I was going to print it out, but then I decided that that would be probably environmentally unfriendly. So the first thing I want to do is ask for a little assist here from Chief of Police Kevin Mullis has been kind enough to join us tonight. I want to give him an opportunity to talk about things that have been affecting the Malden police, affecting your community, and also give him an opportunity to talk about the police department's own efforts to stay engaged with the community through, he's been doing a weekly address and a lot of great efforts in social media to sort of connect to people. So, Chief Mullis.
Thank you. Hi everybody, glad to be here. Always good to engage the community. As Dave said, we've recently initiated some different ways to connect with the public through social media. Tonight I put together a weekly video where I try to give the public a general idea of what might have gone on in the community over the past week and give some updates about some public safety matters. But I've always preferred the face-to-face human contact with people. Not everybody likes to watch things on social media, but it's something that we've just started doing. I will tell you, I live in a city like you, so your concerns are always mine, because at the end of the day, when I go home, I'm in the same city as you are. I've been around a long time, and I'm happy to say that during the first year of my career, I often had a walking beat in Maplewood. Back then, there was an officer assigned to Maplewood Square, and every hour, at 15 past the hour, you had to go to a blue box with a key and ring the box and let the station know that you were in Maplewood Square. So, I want to start off by mentioning something that I highlighted in my video to the public tonight. We had an incident over the weekend, March 2nd, in which we responded to a call of a shooting. The shooting had taken place in the Malden Street apartment complex property, and as a result of that response, the officers came upon a 23-year-old male who had been shot. He was brought to a hospital and pronounced deceased. An investigation was immediately undertaken by the detectives from the Malden Police Department and state police assigned to the District Attorney's Office, Marion Ryan. What I've announced to the public and what was put out to the media as of yesterday, there is a warrant in effect for the person responsible for these crimes. His name is Yahia Mansouri. He's actively being sought by law enforcement agencies actually all around the country. So his information about being wanted has been presented around the country. As was indicated in the announcement from the District Attorney's Office and through me, it is the belief that this incident and this death was a result of a drug transaction that had gone into a violent transition. And we also are confident this was just not some random act of violence. Now that's important for everyone here, because it's when you have a crime, it's important to look at that crime and say, what are the facts and circumstances? How do they relate to me? To give you an example, if we had a series of robberies or house breaks in a neighborhood, you would feel personally, potentially a victim in those cases. So that's why it's very important in this case to know that this case has been investigated, a suspect has been identified, there's a warrant for him, and we know the facts and circumstances surrounding that crime. Now, one of the things that I mentioned in my broadcast message to the public tonight was, and what I want to tell you is, one of the most difficult things in my job, or the jobs of the police, when we actually know the facts, like Joe Friday used to say, just the facts. When we know the facts, and we hear that people are presenting different ideas in the public venue that confuses the issue, it's something that I believe is not good. And it seems like on social media, when the news of an incident goes out there, people immediately start speculating and making reference that they heard something that's totally different. And I really believe that's one of the most irresponsible things that anyone can do. I have always promised people, and I said it tonight, that when I provide information about a crime, as much as I can, it'll always be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. You can hear people speculate, oh, I heard that this crime was really connected to another crime. That's absolutely not true. So I'm here to tell you that this homicide that happened the other night was an event that was not a random act of violence. We know the facts and circumstances. And let me also say this. I have a lot of experience in a lot of different criminal investigations. That crime, the way it happened, could have happened in Beverly Hills, Beverly, Massachusetts, Malden, Missouri, and there is one, or Malden, Massachusetts. So there seems to be a desire from some people that any time the reality of crime occurs in our city, that they want to magnify the effect of that in some negative way, and I don't know why you do that. So I can tell you, again, the officers that responded to that incident, and it's a tragedy. You know, 23-year-old young man died. But I'm here to tell you, as members of the community, what the facts and circumstances are, the great work that was done to investigate it, and the fact that the suspect is identified and being actively pursued as we speak. So I want to, give you that reassurance. Okay. In a general sense, but a more Maplewood sense or a Ward sense, you're living in a very good part of the city. There's a test that I always use, and I didn't make this test up. Probably the greatest crime fighter in the history of law enforcement was a transit cop in New York City. He had a test he used to use, it's called the mother test. And whenever he had to investigate a crime or patrol a neighborhood, his rule was, if my mother was the victim of that crime, how hard would I work to solve it? If I was assigned to a neighborhood, how much would I police it if my mother lived in that neighborhood? So I can tell you with confidence that I would be very, very, very reassured if my mother walked in Maplewood or lived in Maplewood. Because you live in a very, very, very good part of the city. And I can also tell you this, depending what time of night it was, if my mother was still alive and she was going out and she said, I'm going somewhere in Malden tonight, I would have absolutely no fear of where she was going. And I'm somebody who lives here. I've been a cop 39 years. I've seen a lot of things, and I'm telling you that the city is moving in a very, very good direction when it comes to public safety. And what I would ask you to do is continue what you're doing. The reason why your board is a good board is because, like most boards, it contains good people. The good always outnumbers the bad. And if you stay together, that goodness will always rule the day. Now, I am not naive. We are a city. We are a city. Those that like to comment when something happens lose sight of the fact that we are a city. And things do happen. But what do we do when they do happen? Do we only focus on them? Or do we go about our life and realize we live in a very, very good place? So your part of the city is very well protected, very well covered. We have sector-based policing, which means an officer is assigned to your part of the city. In that area, they respond to calls for service, 911, or regular calls for service. They engage in directed patrols in certain parts of the ward. One thing I am happy to tell you, as far as those that might have kids at school, we recently assigned an officer, Trent Headley, to be assigned to the middle schools. And I'm already seeing evidence of great results from that. whether it be positive interactions with students or things of that nature. So that's something we like to build upon. And in addition to having Trent Headley in the schools, we also encourage officers in the course of their daily patrol to go to those schools and make visits and interact with kids. Just the other day, we had March is reading month, so I went to the TV with some of the other cops and we read books to the kindergarten class. So it's a lot of good things that we can do. The police station is right in your neighborhood, so that's a good thing. So we have a lot of resources that are available to you. Dave mentioned social media is something that we're starting to use a little bit more. I've gotten into the habit of every week to put out a video that kind of gives a broad overview of what went on in the past week, crimes that have happened, and things that you can do to make yourself safer. There's a couple of crimes that happen with some regularity that you can all make yourself less vulnerable. One of them is overnight breaks into cars. I would say 75% of the breaks into cars, the car was unlocked and valuables were left in the car. As crazy as that might sound, it's a common thing. So if you can do two things, lock your car and don't leave valuables in it, the chance of being a victim is very, very, very minimized. I'll tell you one other good thing. We are able to solve many, many, many crimes or find out that an alleged crime did not happen through the use of video. Because video doesn't have an opinion and it really doesn't lie. The ability to have good video on your property has become very, very affordable. I am not endorsing any particular product, but there are a couple out there that for very, very short money provide you with the ability to monitor your property even when you're not there. You can watch it on your phone the moment somebody activates it. And the better thing for me, when we have a crime happen somewhere, we canvass the neighborhood to see if anybody has video footage. Because if you commit a crime in one location, you either came from some direction or you left in some direction. So we do not always have to see the crime happening on video. We are able to take video and look in the periphery and find evidence. Again, it's something that is very, very affordable right now, and it's becoming even more and more affordable. And I would tell you, as someone who lives in this city, that if more people had video that showed the outside of their property or the street in front of their home, we would reach a point where the solving of most crimes would become very, very, very easy. So I would encourage people to really give that some consideration. I say that to everybody. And again, I am not endorsing a product or advocating one over the other, but there are a couple out there that are extremely reliable and affordable that people that I know have. And I do know that people feel very reassured that when they leave their home and maybe go shopping or to church or just leave their home, that they haven't totally felt that they've left it unguarded. So that's something that I would ask you to kind of pay attention to and take to heart. The last thing I'll say, so I don't take too much time here, the issue of the opioid epidemic continues to be something that we're all aware of. I worked in the drug unit for 9 years. It's something that I have maintained a close contact and relationship and current knowledge about. We continue to have it, but we continue to be on the forefront of it. All the police officers and firefighters have Narcan, which is a reversal drug for those that are afflicted by an overdose. We've saved many lives through this. But we're not only into a reactionary mode. The city has brought on a recovery coach to provide resources and support to those who've been affected by this or the families of those that have been affected by this. But it's something that we are aware of and we continue to work with. So I'll end by saying, you know, the beginning of my career in 1980, when I got to walk Maplewood Square, it was just a foot cop, and I didn't know any of the streets because I grew up in Edgeworth. It was an honor and a privilege those nights, those cold nights, to walk around Maplewood, even though I didn't know anybody and I didn't know the streets. It was an honor. But it's even a bigger honor to stand up here right now and respects, the city has gotten better. It's gotten better because of you. Property values have gone up quite a bit since I walked Maplewood in 1980. Those things don't happen by accident. They happen because it's a good place to live and people want to live there. So let's continue to work together. When I go to these type of meetings, I feel like I'm standing at roll call. Every day I go to roll call, I stand in a room with a group of cops who are going to go out and try to make the city safer. In many respects, I'm standing at roll call. Every one of you, whether you know it or not, have the potential to be part of public safety. You do it by being good citizens and not committing crimes, but you secondarily can choose to do it by participating with me and my cops in being observant, making yourself less a victim, and looking for things that are unusual and calling us when you see them. So I have roll call with maybe sometimes 8 cops, 10 cops, 12 cops. I'm in a room full of people who make us a more effective police department just because of who you are. So I invite you to do that, join us on that mission, and I don't have to sway you in. You can do it anonymously if you want. You can call up and give us information. You don't even have to give your name. So I want to thank you for making your board one of many 8 good boards in the city. Like I said, there's not one that I wouldn't tell my mother that she could walk through and drive through. So I'm here to answer any questions if you like. I think most of you maybe know how to contact me. You can reach me anytime. And if you have a question, I'd encourage you to reach out to me, and I'd be glad to help you out. Thank you.
What's the website?
Is it on the city of Malden?
Yeah, I think we put it out on the Facebook page, YouTube video, and a number of ways to get it.
Yeah, everybody who's signed up, I'll make sure to include that as a source. I want to thank you very much, Chief Mollis. You know, I think we spent a little bit more time than we intended, just because of when we first scheduled this, the recent events of what happened down with the homicide hadn't happened, and I think it's important for us to sort of, you know, face that. First thing, you know, might be a heavy place to start, but just want everyone to know that we are in a safe community and these things do happen. I really want to thank you folks for what you say. I do want to hold questions until we get a little bit more. We want to talk a little bit more about public safety. Quickly, just hit a couple of things. When you guys come to me with issues in terms of areas that might be prone for vehicular accidents or pedestrian safety issues, what I do is I schedule an event, schedule an item on the Traffic Commission agenda. We have some of the Traffic Commission here with us tonight, Chief Mollis and Ron Hogan as the head of the parking department, amongst some other folks. And here's some of the ones that are recent. I just want to go through quickly. A couple places we had a few traffic mirrors put in terms of visibility. As everyone knows, Lebanon Street can be winding, so when we're coming out and it's coming around this way, and it's the last minute, you don't see anybody until the last minute. We've been trying to use some traffic mirrors. So at Lebanon and Pine Street, the corner of Wilbur is across from that, so we have a traffic mirror. Lebanon and Valley, we've got one coming that's going to be at the corner of Cherry, so we're coming down the Valley because it winds back. And in that same spot, a little bit south of that, we've put some new signage to make sure that you know that curve is coming up. And so that always feels, for a lot of residents there, and for me, because that's my way home too, a little bit dangerous, so we're trying to solve things like that. These are just examples. Eastern Ave at Chief Street, near the Dunkin' Donuts there, that crosswalk has felt pretty dangerous for some folks. And so the traffic, I went to the Traffic Commission, we talked about getting some new signage there. The primary issue you've got is people coming off of Broadway, turning on to Eastern Ave, and really not understanding or knowing that pedestrian crosswalks coming up. So that's something that we've addressed. If there are any other areas, you know, email me about them. I can take those suggestions. You don't even need to have a solution. Just tell me, I'm not sure about this area. We can work with the Traffic Commission to figure out what the right application of a solution is there. because these folks have been dealing with it for a long time. And then one other thing, maybe if, you know, Chief gave us a lot of his time to this, and I just a little bit more on just where we are with Drive 25.
Yeah.
Maybe run through with the signage on it.
Yeah, so through the city council, they passed a rule that the city would adopt a 25-mile-an-hour speed limit. The city engineer has identified the number of locations in which we would have to have a sign to legally meet the standards so someone could be stopped from speeding, because you have to let people know what the rule is. So we have we have the obligation to put the signs up, and then secondarily, then enforcement could legally occur.
Yeah. So the signs are coming once those are.
Yeah.
We did vote to put the speed limit back up until the signs are there.
Yeah.
Yes, I spoke to you a few days ago about Broadway and Eastern Avenue.
Yes.
You're coming from east, and you're trying to go south.
Absolutely.
We do not have an arrow, and cars keep going through, even on yellow and some of the very last of red. They're going east. And the problem is, you've got to move on red, or else you're not going to make a turn. And in fact, the other day, Broadway is very dangerous. And Eastern Avenue on Broadway heading south, a woman come out of McDonald's, and she hit another car, boom. And this up a little further, they had it happening about a year and a half ago, a woman crossing the street, trying to get to the other side. She was killed. There's a whole bunch. I was backing out of my driveway when I was in my early 20s, and a guy was killed, city. There's something wrong with the lighting system down there from when you come off the hill to Eastern Avenue. And the state has been involved for years, and they don't put lights up for the other side, so it's a dead light. And the cars go like crazy, even in the daytime. It's a crazy environment.
Let's, I'll
Maybe we could put a camera on the east side and put a camera on the west side and just study it for a while to see what they're doing there.
Yeah, that's probably a good idea. Yeah, exactly. As the chief said, it probably might be an engineering thing, so we'll figure out that, we gotta look at the light timing.
I'm not that familiar, but I will look into the
Eastern
sequence and the
Avenue.
timing of the intersections.
Eastern Avenue, cars going west, trying to take a left turn to go south. And then the road hasn't been marked properly way down by Sheep Street or Marlborough Street. Saying that you're going to go straight through, you get on the right side, and you're going to take a
So
turn.
you're
go
saying
the other. Because if you're where I'm coming up from Market Basket, and you're going to try and take a turn, you've got two vehicles coming right at you.
So let me
Because
just,
they're all in the wrong lane.
absolutely, so it's a major intersection. I'm glad you brought it up. It's more than just a
Yeah,
side
I mean,
street.
there's been a lot of people killed
Absolutely.
from the plaza down to Eastern Avenue. And somebody's got to do something.
Between the folks we have right here, we're gonna get a solution. So,
In that intersection, the lines have been missing for 2 years. The signs have been missing, left lane, left turn on Eastern Avenue going on to Broadway. And also the same thing in Hunting, Salem, and Broadway. There's only one sign, left lane, left turn, and there's no lines there.
We'll look at the signage, line striping, we'll get back to what comes.
I called, well, it doesn't matter what I called, September of 2017 I've called.
For what, line striping?
The line striping and the signs to be put up there. They were supposed to be done in the spring of 2018, I was told.
Are you talking Eastern Avenue?
Eastern Avenue, Broadway.
So the crosswalks there have been done, those are
No, the yellow lines and the
Oh, the
left
center
turn,
lines.
left turn, left home.
So the pavement market, and I don't know if I spoke to you because the pavement market comes under me, but we get a lot of the X amount of dollars each year, usually it's somewhere in the vicinity of $100,000 for pavement markings. And it's like a 3-year process to do the whole city. Last year, the money was not, it wasn't 100,000, it was a little less. So again, in a perfect world with endless amount of funds, we'd like to do every crosswalk in the city every year. We do it with thermoplastic, but it comes down to, you know, obviously the elephant in the room, which is all the money.
Well, if you put some cameras, east or west and whatever, and you can see them, what a person is gonna have to get through in order to take a turn, and what's coming at them, then you can study it and come up with something.
Yes, we had that conversation the other day.
Yes.
We've got that on the list of things that we're going to address with.
And I want to see the plows come from, go ahead, take every first, take all the snow back to the curbs, and then turn it around and put it on the cemetery side. Which what they do is they come down, they don't do it. We have extra parking in front of our house, and they fill it up. And that's not fair.
I'm going to follow up with you specifically on more of those things. Just right, because it's one spot, it's an important spot, it's one spot. We're going to put that down, then we're going to get action on. Move on just so we can do the rest of the stuff. First of all, my apologies for not mentioning. Some of my colleagues have been kind to come in here and support me. Sorry, guys, a little bit of a rookie mistake. My other councilors, Council at Large, Debbie DiMaria, and Council at Large, Steve Winslow, and Council at Large, Craig Spot Ford. So thank you guys very much for coming. One more public safety issue that has come up recently. I don't want to say too much about it tonight. I don't want to get into it a lot tonight because I've asked the Public Safety Committee of the City Council to get a list of questions together about some data and some concerns residents have brought to me. We are in the process of that. Those questions have been sent to the fire chief. Just taking a look at some response times, the different types of calls we have, and I believe it's the 26th that we decided on.
I'm still trying to have a time to get a quorum, so it'll be probably the first week of April right now.
Oh.
I can't get everybody lined up on a date. It's one of the challenges of being on the council, but
Yeah.
we're
All right.
working
So
on it.
we're gonna get that information out once it's scheduled. Chief Van is gonna come in and address those questions. It's quite a big amount of information we're talking about with him. We want to make sure, do we have our equipment properly located and distributed? Do we have what we need? And are we within sort of the NFPA, this National Fire Protection Association, guidelines, thresholds for what's acceptable? And so that's what we're talking about. Sorry.
Bring up fire. Originally when Maplewood Fire Station closed because of a safety issue with the building, there was an implication that the city was going to try and find another location for a Maplewood area fire station. We also through that process lost Ladder 2, as you know. But I don't know what's going on with that. Last we heard was that it never going to happen.
So that's certainly the root of, I think, many people's concerns, right? And so the way I tend to approach things, so the engineer and me, so let's stop for a second. And we need assessment before we start talking about solution. Before we start talking about we're going to spend 20 million, 50 million. Maybe we have to do that. First thing we're going to do is we're going to look at what the state of the problem is, what the severity of it is, and what do we actually need. And then if we do need to go forward from that point, that's a conversation we have to.
I understand
And I don't want, I also have I want to two sides of the issue in a certain way, because as I'm now the chair of the finance committee. So if I make myself a problem over here, then I have to go solve it. And we have many, many, many challenges in the city, and we have to make sure we're using the resources properly. So the first thing we need to do is have an absolute solid understanding of what we need. And that's, I think, we'll take the first step.
I won't say there was a commitment, but there was an implication by the city when that station closed that would be a replacement. And it's not happening.
That's the first step of trying to solve that problem is exactly what I intended by sending that paper to the public safety. Does anybody else have a question or a comment on it? I'm sorry. I'm sorry about that. Does anybody else have a question or a comment on that? They want to. All right, I'm going to hand it over for a minute to Ron Hogan. Ron Hogan, he's a number of things for the city. He's a strategic analyst for us, but also the unenviable job of trying to rein in the rodeo that is sometimes parking.
Thank you, Dave. So some of you may know about a year and a half ago, the city created the parking department in order to try to deal with the reality of parking in a densely populated urban city. Over the course of the years, it's just become a more and more important topic. It was something that was part of the police department, and the chief was fully on board with creating a more focused effort to try to just, like I said, deal with the fact that, a lot of you who have been here for a lot of years can attest to the fact that 40 years ago there were nowhere near as many cars on the street. There were nowhere near as many folks living in sort of homes that live today, and with that, it's just become a tremendous strain on parking. So the mission of my department is to try to look at everything related to parking and make sure that our policies try to best serve the entire resident base that we have across the city. So one of the first things that I wanted to do was to deal with the fact that it's sort of amazing we're a city that over the course of the last 50 years has somehow managed never to install a street sweeping sign citywide, right? So I think everybody knows that the penalty for parking in impeding the street sweeper is a pretty steep penalty. It's a $50 fine, and yet we rely upon folks to sort of learn what the rules are on their street, use electronic means, and the fact of the matter is it just doesn't work. So I'm pleased that we were finally able to partner up with the Department of Corrections and come up with an affordable solution. I think the reason why it never happened before was the numbers that were thrown out were $700,000 to $800,000 to do things citywide. We've been able to work with DOC, bring that down to under $70,000 to install a sign citywide. We started doing that just this past week, so crews are going street by street. What you're going to see us do, just so you know, in the interest of full disclosure, is every one of the streets across the city, generally speaking, has the utility poles on one side of the street or the other. The real expense for installing signs comes in when you try to install channel poles on sort of the opposite side of the street. So what we're starting with is signage on existing utility poles. So if you see a pole, you're going to see signs on both sides of it to try to at least notify residents on the street that, because we're all visual people, right? You pull up, your inclination is to look up and see whether or not you can park here. So you're going to see that happening. It's going to probably take us a better part of 2 or 3 months to get through the entire city, but it's our hope that it will just help folks that like myself, tend to just want to look up and see, can I park here? So I think it'll be a tremendous benefit for residents citywide. Did you?
A question kind of related. Do you also do the no parking through the corner signs?
Yeah.
How do I request it on this?
You can either tell me afterwards, or you can do it on a single fix. But yeah, if you have, obviously we try to deal with those on a case-by-case basis, right? So there is a regulation citywide about the distance that you can park to a corner. But if we find that certain locations are problematic for whatever reason, then we have put up signs that just kind of remind folks. So Dave will get the location and we'll go from there. So the other thing that we've been working on is really taking a look at our winter parking regulations, which again, in a lot of cases have been in place for the better part of the last 40 plus years, largely unchanged, right? So we, traditionally we've started winter parking on November 1st. And citywide, you have to get the cars off of one side of the street and get them on the other side of the street. And generally speaking, November 1st, a lot of folks really aren't thinking winter is here yet, right? So a lot of folks end up starting to get ticketed. What we did this year was we pushed that back to starting it with the first, what we're calling winter event, right? So the first time the forecast said to us, we're really gonna need to have access to the streets, we started letting folks know, listen, it's coming in play. And this year we'll get 77 more days of not having to restrict parking to one side of the street. Now, we're the first one to admit that that first storm was a little bit tricky to get folks over to that one side of the street, but nonetheless, we willingly and quite frankly, it was just the right thing to do, wrote over 5,000 fewer parking tickets by not ticketing people in November and December, when quite frankly, typically it doesn't snow during that period of time. So we thought that was a real great feedback from residents on that. And the other thing we did was, and we're going to continue looking at this, we've got a long way to go. We had over 100 streets citywide where you couldn't park throughout the entire winter from midnight to 7 a.m. And nobody could really tell me why. Like, I don't know if somebody knew it snowed more often from midnight to 7 a.m., but nobody really was able to figure that out. So we eliminated that restriction so that, again, on all these streets, we had a lot of people that just, they got used to doing it, but we really didn't have a great reason why it still existed. So we had a long way to go with winter parking. We still, as a city, have some of the most restrictive regulations of any city around us. And we're, as a department, just trying to take a look and say, does it really balance the needs, with, the needs of the residents with what it is that we're trying to do from a city perspective to be able to plow the streets? Again, a lot has changed. There's more cars on the street than there used to be. And we recognize that for a lot of folks, when that snow emergency comes, you know, we've got over 200 streets citywide where during a snow emergency you can't park on either side. And there's just no place for folks to park. And so we're working on the potential of sort of relooking at that whole program and saying, do we really need to do this on over 200 streets? The give and take there is always, if you allow cars to park on one side, obviously, you know, Bobby and his crew are going to have to give in a little bit on what they can do for plowing, right? So we recognize that that's always the give and take, but I think we can find a better balance between, you know, residents trying to find a place to park and being able to plow and remove snow. So I don't know if anyone's got any questions.
So for eliminating overnight parking, did you just do that? You haven't done away with that yet, have you?
Yeah, so there were 100 streets that, like I said, just throughout the winter month only, yeah. 12 a.m. to 7 a.m. Yeah. Those were all eliminated.
Yeah, so no more at all ever?
You can park, again, unless there's a snow emergency, but this notion that just every night of the week between 12 a.m. and 7 you couldn't park there regardless of the weather conditions is what we.
November 1st.
That's correct. That's right. But we eliminated that.
Permanently?
Yeah.
Okay, but the thing about that is, right, like on my street, I've owned my house for 12, 13 years.
Yep.
It's a one-way street. You can't park on my street at night, you know, the midnight to 7, as of November 1st. And yeah, there's no snow, I mean, what? But here's the problem. If those cars can park there in the winter and we get snow, not an emergency, but enough to plow. So who gets all the snow? I do. My side of the street. My biggest complaint with the DPW is that they push the snow only on my side of the street. I'm very happy to report that we asked this year that they be mindful of that, and this last storm, it was awesome. Because they pushed some on one side when they went down, and they did opposite side. But if you, because you can only park on one side of the street, I think, on my street. So all the snow gets pushed on my side, and that's how it's gonna end up being if there's parking there with the snow on it.
But don't forget, right, this restriction was midnight to 7 a.m., so at 7:01,
yeah, you
were back to that condition. The time was truly just an arbitrary time frame of overnight. And it existed from a day when cell phones didn't exist and the internet didn't exist, and we had no other way to communicate with residents. Yeah. So the thought process was, well, if somebody's on the street at 4 in the morning, we couldn't have gotten a hold of them. The reality is the modernized ways of being able to communicate with folks, we think, eliminated the need for that. The challenges you're talking about exist at 4 in the afternoon, at 7 in the afternoon, or at midnight.
Yeah, I'm not sure though if the rule for my street, could it be that there's no parking on my street? Is it just the night hours?
Why don't I get your street afterwards, and maybe I can, I'll get your contact information. I'll make sure you're clear on what's going on with your street.
Yeah, I mean, I am a little bit confused, but up until this last storm, I mean, I go out there and shovel, and then 3 more inches of snow come down, and clouds come down, and I'm all plowed in all over again. I mean, I understand, I mean, that's life, we live in the winter, but I mean, for like the first 10 or 7, 8 years that I lived there, I mean, one year we had so much snow. I mean, I was literally finishing my
2015.
my shoveling, that's the one.
Yeah.
And I mean, I clear my sidewalk and then the plow comes down and boom, back on my side of the street again.
I can speak on that after if you want about the
I just, if you don't mind being a little, I can take your name right now and just straighten, we'll make sure.
Go ahead, no, go ahead, I was just,
Yeah.
Kid, is it okay if Dave takes your name and then I'll
Yeah.
get a contact?
Diane Maciel.
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
I just talked.
Oh, hello, how are you?
Yeah.
Facebook name.
Creatures of habit, if you have them every year not park on the street from like December 1st maybe,
Yep.
instead of just arbitrarily waiting until it's gonna snow, number one. I've been in my neighborhood all my life,
Yep.
okay? We alternate. One year it's even side, one year it's odd side, so I don't, why is it always, I don't understand why first side would always get the snow.
There were some that
It's supposed to alternate.
Yeah, no, yeah, so
So
there's
don't alternate?
I live on a street that does it.
there's a few exceptions where if your street only allows parking on the even side of the street all year, then it stays, you know, you continue to park in the, yeah, there's, when I say a few, there seems to be more exceptions sometimes than rules, but there's 20 some odd exceptions that fit in that category. So I, you know, again, Dave will get the information, I'm not sure if that's one of those streets,
In my
but.
area, most people
Yeah.
have huge driveways.
Yeah, well, that's
One car in the street and one car in the driveway.
Yeah.
They should be
Yeah.
asked to park all their cars.
But to answer your question, what we're not doing is saying that it's for the storm and then it goes back. What we're saying is the first storm and then it's on the rest of the winter, right? So most of the cities around us, Revere, Everett, Somerville, they put it on for the storm and you park on the even side and then you move back. We're not doing that, but what we're doing is just not trying to be in a situation where if somebody's out there getting a parking ticket on December 1st when it's 48 degrees out because the rules say you can't park on that side of the street. We're just trying to find a better balance. And you're absolutely right, there's a little bit of a challenge with getting folks trained a little bit. I think we learned some things this year, but by and large, the folks that have to park on the street, I think have realized that it was a benefit for them. So, is that
I also looked over in Cambridge and they tow cars like,
Yep.
like nothing.
Yeah,
They
we
just
don't-
go down the street, announce it, and car's gone.
Yeah, Everett does the same thing, but they have less restrictions, and so there's less things to tow for, and they tow more frequently, and I think that's one of the things we'll look at is, should we have fewer restrictions, but be more aggressive removing the cars, and to try to find a better balance there, so. This gentleman, and then a couple others, I'm sorry, go ahead.
When we have a snow emergency, is there any chance that you can ask the plow guys to get the snow a little bit closer to the curb?
Bobby, can you guys get the snow closer to the curb for crying out loud? How was that?
The perfect world, they melt it all, but
I can drive for you, I can do just a lousy job, because, you know, sometimes you guys are great, but when you have a snow emergency, live on Home Street, the plows come up, they, you know, they're like, 4 feet away from
Home
the
Street
curb.
down by Steve's Corner.
Yeah.
Very challenging down there with people parking down by Steve's Corner on both sides. So I'm not gonna argue snow with you, but I will tell you this, we try to get back to the curves as best as possible. It's not a perfect science. You got limited resources, but I can tell you this, that the men and women of the department work very hard. We get some very good
No
progress.
question.
So I think, you know, getting over a foot of snow this last week in 5 hours, and people were able to get out and around
Take
next
out a
morning.
street sign, you got this guy right over here, you know, you can replace him.
Like
You're
I said,
never
the best
gonna win
thing
with
was-
snow.
No, but listen, I've been with the DPW 26 years, so I'd be happy to answer any snow questions. 2015, certainly, if anyone was around, was a year that we'll never forget, but I'll never forget. And so this past storm, like I said, is just an example of, we got kind of a routine for snow, but it's not perfect. It depends on a lot of things. Timing of the storm, weather after, temperatures after. There's a lot that goes into it. It's not just, it's gonna snow and that's it. There's a lot of things. Is it on the weekend? Is there school the next day? So there's a lot of things that come into play, and parking is a huge part of it.
Real problem, I said Council Kamel scheduled me like a week before, it would have been a lot easier for Bobby, so. A couple of gentlemen here, go ahead.
Yeah, you relaxed some of the regulations, which it sounds like reduced the amount of parking tickets that you guys write.
Right.
I was just curious if that's a significant amount of the city budget, if people need to start learning about getting the alternative source of revenue.
No, so, yeah, the tickets that we write for parking, by and large, are specifically to mandate action, right? It's not It is not supposed to be a revenue source. I'm not saying there aren't places that uses a revenue source, but that is not a philosophy you want to use because you're just getting the revenue from your own residents who are going to then be angry at you. What we want to do between tickets for snow, we don't want to give you tickets when there's no snow because we're only ticketing you to get you out of the way so Bobby can get closer to the curb. If you got one car, if you got one car that doesn't move, then you've got to go veering around them, and now you've got 30 feet of snow that later has to be moved. We don't want to ticket people, parking in front of businesses. We want to get them moving out. That we've talked about that in some of the business areas when you have 2-hour parking or something like that. It's not to create revenue, it's to get that car out so a space is open for another customer to come to that business and continue that business all day. So, and if you've got a good business going that has cars flowing through there, that's going to be a better source of revenue than nickel and dime people.
Yeah, this gentleman, I'm sorry, this gentleman over here has been waiting patiently, sir.
I'm sorry.
Yes, I have an issue at on Maple Street and Broadway. An issue today was a long time ago. It's about parking issue. The house on 342 became a shelter.
You mentioned about being a party house.
I have a list of 14 cars that park in and out, in and out. And I've been living on that section for 53 years. Never had this problem. Now my daughter has just had a baby. She can't find a parking. So all these cars take it over continuously. And one of the residents at that house stole a car from my neighbor. The Malden police, South police has that on record. And also about the music. They played loud overnight, and we called the Malden police, and they haven't done anything. They play very loud music, continuous, foreign music. And I have a neighbor who has the same problem.
It's not I don't know what it is over there. There's not the same people who live there from day to day. People come and go. I see nurses coming with syringe things. I don't know if they're taking, I don't know if they're drug addicts in there. I don't know if they're shelter people. I don't know what they are.
We had a similar problem on registered plates. I owned a house at 10 registered plates. We had prostitution.
I do want to be specific about
Mr. Spatafora, we met with him and they got people up.
Right. So there's a big difference. I do want to be very specific. There is a big difference. If there's a house where criminal activity is happening is one thing. If there is a house that is, as using the parlance, a sober house, there are some very rigid laws about the way you deal with it. You could end up running afoul of discrimination laws if you treat the people in that sober house differently than you would a single-family home, which seems a very convoluted way to approach it.
But it was like a house. It was bought by a family, and they still own it, I believe, and they moved out, and now they're just.
That's the same thing that happened.
They're just doing what they want.
It was a party.
And probably collected money and whatever.
There's two of them.
It's really not fair to the.
So you're saying, what's the address you're talking about? On the corner of Mingo and Broadway? Or is that
Yes.
your?
Yeah, Mingo and Broadway.
There's another house on Mingo in Home Street that the people bought it originally, an Indian family bought it originally, moved to Billerica, and you have different cars all the time. No, you have 3 cars there that are, you want me waiting.
My son saw people having intercourse at the foot of my driveway.
And that's
They're grown men now.
Yeah.
Should be handled, passed by certificate or roll call to.
Yeah, there's a couple. Right. So I just want to let you, I mean, obviously, wanted to give it a minute for people to get it off the chest. I wanted to see everybody, see me get the complaint and make sure I follow through. I do want to move on. This part of this is me standing up here, you seeing them all, bring it to me, and making sure I follow through with it. So that is part of this.
One more comment about water things. I have a neighbor, and that neighbor has somebody, a friend of theirs living with them. They park on Broadway right in front, beyond my driveway. And what he does is, if the police do not call and say it's an emergency, it's gonna snow, then he won't move. And then the plows come down, heading towards Everett, and they have to pick the plow up in front of my driveway and go around them,
So,
and I
okay.
get punished.
We've got that on the list, how the plows do that, that's like a Broadway.
Yeah, but if the police
Ma'am,
do not
we're gonna
call.
follow up to the separate. So.
All right.
Again, it's not gonna people leave. We've got to get to the issues that affect everybody, and then absolutely, I will handle all of it, talk to you about ones that are individual.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry.
Yeah, I'm Roginski, I live at 50 Webster Street. My house has two acres. My wife lives in they did this. I apologize. But all they did was clear a path down the middle of the street and clear one side of the car. The street was empty. I actually wanted to do that.
Yeah, I know that, so I know in the beginning of a storm, if they do come through, make sure that emergency units can come through. Usually what is supposed to happen is they do come back maybe for a second pass. You do want to get as quickly as you can across the city to clear that one single path, so all emergency vehicles can get through the city without having to do stuff. And then come back. Yeah. Every other time. I should have. Okay. All right. I'm gonna actually hold the questions, and we're gonna move on. Okay, so the other thing that makes everybody happy to talk about is roads. So finally, we will see a long-term plan. The details aren't done yet. We're gonna see a long-term plan about handling both the roads. So for a while, we've had to deal with roads that have the water main replacements underneath them, and that has gotten all of our attention. So we're going to start to see a long-term plan that covers both of those roads and also gets back to replacing roads based solely on their condition, whether or not there are older water mains that need to be replaced underneath. The list of those roads is not complete yet. It's still in development. Has not been sent down to the council, which will eventually be sent down and discussed. But I do know, and I believe I'm only repeating some of what the mayor said in his city. I think a couple of, correct me if I'm wrong, Forest Main, Richard Main Street might be among this year. Are going to be this year. So of course some of those aren't, none of those are in Ward 6, but the drive, I mean, I know, I drive Forest, I drive Main Bridge all the time to get back and forth with the city. So hopefully that will save some wear and tear on our vehicles to start getting those done. Just want to ask, well, two more things I want to mention, and I'll hand it over to Jan for just a second. Folks have complained for a very long time about what we call the Olive Ave River, which is basically a stream that had been built around in somebody's house and kind of just jets out of a retaining wall that flows down the street. It is a challenge. You've got to basically create new draining and dig down to deal with it. I know Yem has been doing his best. Hopefully we get a little bit of an update on that. What we're not going to talk too much about is some of the stuff on Bowman. We'll follow up with you a little bit later. But Bowman is it is an example, is indicative of water, the geology of our neighborhood, especially as where the highlands meet the lowlands, when all that water comes down. There are older drainage systems that sometimes don't have capacity in them, and so we're all sort of, this is a bad unintended pun, but in the same boat. Sometimes one of the most important things you can do, and I know Keith is out there all the time doing it, is clearing the leaves out of the catch basins. The city staff gets out there and does as much as they can, but we need a hand with that too, and that will help. But if Yem doesn't mind taking a minute or two to talk about this or whatever.
Thank you, Councilor. So when I first got on board, Mayor handed me the road computer program, and in it, the database, survey of the whole road, condition of the road, and whatnot. Because when you run the report, you get $20 million of backlog. That's equated to about 20 miles of road that we need to address right away. Looking under that, that's on the surface only. Underneath the road, you have whole pipes, water pipes, drainage pipes, sewer pipes. Starting this year, we'll present to the mayor and the council a more long-term plan where we'll start paving the road. We're looking to water main replacement, looking to, we have lead lines in the city, quite a few that we need to replace before we pave. Same thing with water, sewer and drainage. All of that area, we need to look into improving the drainage. So right now, there's a drain line that cut across from all of that to Monmouth. Obviously, the capacity is undersized. We have to find a way to push the water in another way. And I'm looking at preliminary design right now. We complete the survey, and this winter we'll put out the bid to address the Olive and Rockingham area. So that's an example of what we need to do with drainage improvement prior to paving the road. And after that, we'll look at paving Olive Ave and Granite Street and all that area afterward. That's all I have now.
No, that's a good example. Anybody have questions on that? Diane?
Do you guys know roughly when you'll finalize the list of, the priority list of what will be done? And will we, as a community, have access to that list to kind of get an idea where we all stand for the streets that need it?
Sure.
I'm happy to see that Bainbridge and Forrester high on the list that we have, but my streets start to get cleaned up too, but I know there's a lot worse, but.
So let me answer that. It's going to come down, anything that the council, any of the council business is public. So whatever the documents we have, all of our deliberations are going to be open meetings. So yes, all that's going to be public, as is the nature of a deliberative body. People may debate from their own point of view, try to document the streets, but what I believe our aim here is to make it as objective as possible. A few years back, there was what was called PCI, the
Pavement
Condition Index, where it's basically a 0 to 100 number for all these different segments of the street. And it's a pretty extensive spreadsheet. And it shows that some of these streets are, 100 is brand new. There are streets that are like 15. So, and we are aware that we have that. And some of them just sat there because they weren't getting a water main replacement. Well, now we have to start getting towards that. That number should be the main part of what drives which streets get done. So an objective measure of that street. There's also the fact that we want to group them so that we're moving in a specific together. So we're not going to this street, this street, this street, this street. So we'll have to maybe rearrange them a little bit so we're making efficient use of time. But that should be coming down sometime in March. We should be debating it. As the chair of the finance, I can tell you that's going to be as soon as I see that's going to be one of the top priorities that I get into the finance committee, and I'll be reporting it back to all of you as it happens week to week.
So once that list is
once that list is
complete, what is the next step? Do you have to put it on the page? Do you have people come in, or do you already have people that do that?
Basically, it's all out to bid. Yeah.
Oops. I guess we'll present to council first.
Yeah, I believe, so I think the plan, the order of the streets when we get presented, I think we'll approve it, and then we'll figure out how to actually administer.
Then I think we can start spending July 1st, so.
We'll be able to group it into contracts and put out for bid. We'll work with our,
When will it go up a bit? July?
We can start the bidding process earlier if we know it's going to go ahead.
he's being nice and saying it depends how long the council decides to.
That takes time. It takes 2 months from the, the
Well,
time
it's a
you
big
put.
job. I mean, I'm sure it will take a while from the time you approve it till then you have to get people to do it. That's what I'm asking.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of bad roads. I mean, there is, and I know it's a lot, but.
Yeah, and again, even the plan's not done. We don't even want to comment on the volume of what's getting done yet, because sort of want to wait till that gets sent down from the mayor. So, yeah, and other folks are, and Bob, and Bob and our consulting engineers, and then the finance guys, the treasurer and the controller are really.
So is there already a dollar amount that's already set aside to do this?
That's all going to be that's part of the plan that's going to be sent down. They're finalizing that, they're going to send that down.
I have a question for the snowman.
I would call a lot of things, but not that, right?
That didn't come out right, I'm sorry.
That contact is getting renamed in my phone. There you go. Right now.
What's the question? I'm going to call you in the summer.
Mr. Heat Miser, I don't.
Actually, I have 2 questions.
Okay.
Number one, you've been around, you said, for 26 years.
Yep.
What happened to the bobcats that cleared the sidewalks?
So we do clear sidewalks, we have bombardiers, we don't use bobcats no more. Same kind of thing at the sidewalk plow. We do the sidewalks around city-owned property, only schools, parks, city-owned property. We don't do sidewalks in front of residential homes. It's the responsibility of the homeowner to do their frontage.
But it never used to be.
Yeah, if we have extra time as a courtesy, like we'll run main drags, but lately with all the requests, like I'm opening crosswalks and different things as times have changed, there is no extra time, so we're pretty busy with the staffing that we have and getting the work done. So we are responsible for city property, and you as a homeowner are responsible to clear your frontage.
Because I am disabled, and this happened last year, and I think I talked to you. I could not clear my sidewalk, and it was a big snowstorm.
Yep.
I couldn't get anybody to help me. I got a $150 fine. Okay?
Well, I don't like the tickets, so that's not my fault. But I do know what you're talking about.
At that time, nobody knew that you had to clear your own sidewalk in front of your house. And I'm pretty sure, Dave, I talked to you, because I called several people about the ticket. And that's when you said, well, now it's the homeowner's responsibility, but what if people can't do this? There's a lot of elderly people that can't shovel. I mean, it's just not fair. That's why I asked about the bobcats.
So let me just, I mean, from the point of view of the legislature and the budgets, if we could clear everybody's, if we had the funds to clear everybody's sidewalk, I mean, in an absolute heartbeat, that's what we would do. But we don't have those resources to do that. We have the resources to do the streets themselves.
There was something in the local paper, I want to say last year, that said if you were elderly or something, you could call a number.
But those, I believe, are private contracts.
I understand, but at least there's a list of somebody to call.
There is a list maintained in the mayor's office online where you can get shovelers or people to assist you. There is a fee for it, so you negotiate the fee on depending on what you need done.
Cheaper than $150 fine.
Yeah.
But I'm so this.
I was just going to make a little suggestion. I know in the summertime,
yes,
the city uses teams to clear, parks and, kids in parks. Right. Why can't they do that in the wintertime? You have to have a list of elderly private homes, pay them a minimal amount of money and just, have them do those homes if they can't do it.
So the program in the summer is the Mayor's Summer Youth Program. It's funded for like a 5-week period, when the kids are out of school. So it kind of gives the kids summer. But it gives the kids summer jobs. Normally though, when it snows, unless it's a major snowstorm, the kids are all in school. So it would be leaving people with false expectations that a kid's gonna come shovel.
Well, no, I'm talking like they'd have to sign up or something, and, you know, these kids are off for at least a week.
Yeah.
Christmas week after the 1st.
I mean, I don't know if we can make them do that, but
No, I don't mean make them do it, but a lot of kids would volunteer, they don't have anything to do, or whatever, you know. We have the youth center now, and
Teen center.
well, I do want to.
I got a quickie contract question. You talk about hot topping streets. Sometimes, not all the time, no, vendor, you know, it's a contractor, it's not the city doing the work, the city's watching them. And, you know, 2 or 3 years later, in some places, it's falling apart already. Is there anything in the contracts that the city can do that warranties that street for 5 or 10 years or something like that, and make the vendor responsible?
What street is this?
Any street. I'm saying, if you put a contract out for hot topping, why can't you get a warranty from the vendor that it's their responsibility for 5 or 10 years?
So in our contract, we get a year of warranty.
That doesn't sound like very good long term. A year is, to me, is not very good.
But you have to have somebody on the side to sign the contract.
I understand.
You're not.
It's still cheaper than letting the street fall apart after 3 or 4 years.
have
I'm
an-
not saying it happens all the time.
No, I know. Do you have an example? Because
No.
there is a thing where like the utility company goes
That's
into a
different.
new street and has to dig up.
So-
Within 5 years, they have to do curb to curb.
When we put the contract out to bid,
I know there was some sidewalk pavers. We had concerns in some places with concrete breaking down.
I'm just asking a
far too
question.
fast.
if the underground
But you're talking about hot top?
facility,
Specifically talking about hot top.
But you can say concrete as well.
Yeah, but that we have a specific, there was a specific concern with a specific contract.
Especially in Ward 6.
Yeah, that we went.
I know that.
We went like,
Yeah, they went to court.
yeah, we went after.
Yeah, they.
That was a very specific thing. We should say that there was.
It's not a complaint, it's just a question.
No, it's, that's good.
Ask any question.
1
you want,
year
that's
doesn't
how
sound
we-
like a very good warranty for hot top. It should last a heck of a lot longer than that. If you hot top a
if it
street,
is
how
the
long
hot
do you think it
top,
should last? 20
Depending on the
years?
street, if it's a main artery, or 10, 20 years. depending
Okay,
on
so
what-
you're getting a 5 or 10-year warranty would be better than 1.
Sandra.
Yeah, just a follow-up comment to the gentleman around the corner. I'm on High Rock. Last spring, probably summer timeframe, there was pipes replaced, I think it was gas pipes replaced on Nichols, Northern, I think, just around that area. And the pavement is already coming out from patchwork. I've opened up 2 tickets. I know it's a really hard time to do it right now. I had a neighbor that actually was picking up asphalt off the street or pavement off the street already. So it's been like 9 months.
So I can speak on gas permits. Obviously, you all know that there was a recent lockout for a while, that now they're returning. But any excavation that the gas company does, we get a permit request. So we have a list of paved,
Well, this is actually what they replaced last year, and the pavement's already coming out.
the pavement itself is coming.
Yeah, it's right on the corner of Northern and Nichols, and I mean, one of my neighbors was picking up chunks of.
Why don't you take a picture of a common
Okay,
wall?
it's actually on Cpc.
No, this is my own tag, and probably go right there on the stairs.
And there are other parts like that have been all the way out, I think it's
It
Northern.
might be temporary patching, but that's gonna get there.
It doesn't look temporary.
Northern's in tough shape.
Yeah.
That road's in tough shape.
And just a quick follow-up question about, hopefully this was the last storm, but as a community, are we like policing each other about sidewalks being cleaned? Because, I'm a homeowner, like, I'm responsible for in front of my house. Some people choose not to do it. Dave, you live right around the corner. You can look up our street. Half the people didn't do it in front of their home. So, are we destined to tattle on each other? I mean, is there a proactive approach? Do we
Yeah,
seek
so
feedback?
the short answer is yes. So as far as I know, there's not enforcement that goes on a patrol to find where the offenders are. But if it's called in, somebody's going to go out there and say, it's 24 hours. So sometimes it feels too long, but from a owner's point of view, people have a hard time getting it done. After those 24 hours, if it's not done, we have revised what it is a warning the first time, but then it does go into penalties. So right, I'm gonna move on. Is it
Okay, all right.
another snow question?
Well, it was just in response to her question. If you're living in a neighborhood for X amount of years, you should know if your neighbor is disabled or old. Because in my neighborhood, they're all single-family homes, and we help each other.
I mean, I won't disagree with that. I think I'd like to see, even
I
if
know a
people
person lives next to me.
bring
who's
people out like this
disabled,
and start
we
talking
kinda-
to each other, if that's
Yeah,
what we start to
we shovel
get
him
a
out,
sense of
so.
community. And yeah, I mean, I know my neighbor next door to me, we went across the street, this Malden owned land, so it's Malden owned land, and then a gentleman who doesn't shovel, and we don't do it every storm, but we got out there and we shoveled the other side of the street. I mean, we split it up and got
It goes down to know your neighbors.
Yeah, the old thing of being a good neighbor. I'm out every storm, obviously, working. My neighbor across the street's a firefighter. He shovels in front of my house, and my wife comes out with the kids. It's clear, so you help out your neighbor.
So, time check. If we're later than 7:15, we're running a bit long. All right. So, I really want us to get to talking about the City Hall. The two things we have left here, the City Hall and the cannabis legislation. All right, we'll do things democratically, okay? All right. Who would rather hear about the City Hall? And who would rather hear about the cannabis legislation, zoning and licensing?
What decision?
All right. The City Hall portion has a video.
Dave, you want me to just try to go 2 minutes? Yeah, quickly. Okay, so I'll try to make this real quick so maybe Dave can get to both. But I think everybody knows the project to tear down Old City Hall, open up Pleasant Street, get rid of the police station, resituated here at Wood 6. Going on now for a couple of years now. We're finally getting to the goal line with the City Hall project. We will actually, within the next 3 weeks or so, close on a transaction where we take control from the developer of a shell condominium, and we'll then spend the next 9 months or so turning it into City Hall. And the Pleasant Street should open up to through traffic somewhere in the late spring, early summer. It's going to be, yes, you'll actually be able to go both ways between Abbott and Commercial. And then, of course, the remainder of Pleasant will stay one way like it is today. So I did just bring and I'll jump right to it in the interest of time. I brought a couple videos that we had the architect do that kind of shows you a walkthrough of just the first 2 floors. The first floor is really all geared towards public space, council chamber, meeting rooms, right? So the idea is when you're coming into City Hall, instead of having to go up to a different floor for public meetings, they're all going to be truly at the ground level. So this just kind of walks you through what it might look like if you're walking through the front door. Each one of them takes about a minute, and I'll get out of the way and let Dave talk about cannabis. But you can see the idea is trying to get away from the look of the old City Hall, a lot of glass. It's a lot smaller, the building, because quite frankly, we had a ton of extra space that was incredibly costly to maintain, to heat the old City Hall. So you see a lot of glass. You'll see the council chamber, which again is right sized for what government is today, right? So a lot of folks are participating in some of these meetings electronically. This 2-story foyer with that cool wood wall going into the council chamber that's got these sort of wood columns with this pretty glass in between them, and sort of the circular shaped chamber, right? So we tried to get away from some of the boxiness of the old City Hall. Again, you'll see it's not massive like the old chamber, right? A lot of times it was mostly empty for such a big room, and hopefully it'll make the meetings a little bit more intimate. Kind of a cool ceiling with what I guess the architect calls an oculus in the middle of it. The idea here was quality over quantity. It's a smaller building, and we're hoping that the materials that we use will last a lot longer.
You're going to get comfortable chairs this time?
If you want padding on them, we'll do padding, okay?
It doesn't feel like you're sitting on a rock. Yeah.
So Dave, you want to go with that? So the idea behind the City Hall is not that different than the last one. Most of the offices that you all might do business with are on the 2nd floor, where you can either just walk up that main staircase, or certainly there's 2 elevators you can go up. This kind of gives you a look of out onto Pleasant Street from looking over that 2nd floor. And then all of your offices, most of your offices that you might want to visit, the treasurer's office, the city clerk's office, are going to be right up here on the 2nd floor, with the remainder of it spread throughout the rest of the building. So again, I'll let it just take a quick walk through. The idea is durable materials, tile floors, tile on the wall in some of the more heavily traveled spaces, and hopefully just a lighter
brighter outlook than what the old City Hall had.
Your parking, right?
Yeah.
Can you put a couple of 15-minute max parking in front so you can run and go in and put
About 2 spots right out in front from going down to City Hall.
You think 2's enough? Just I mean, there's more than 2 or 3 people in line.
Yeah, well,
I'm talking about to go pay a parking ticket or go pay your water bill or something like that.
You can always come to the parking office where you can pull in the garage for free. We even validate. So we're over at 7 Jackson
I know where
Street.
you are.
Yeah, so you can always come in right in the garage, take a ticket, we'll give you a ticket, you get up and down.
Okay, that's new.
Yep. Yeah, we haven't done a great job of making sure people understand. We tell people one by one, you know. But there is some parking in front that will be better than what it was before.
But it should be limited to like 15 minutes.
Yep.
I'm talking
It will be.
stuff.
So Dave, hopefully that was quick enough. Gives you an idea of what's coming. Again, I can't imagine there's a ton of questions on City Hall, but there's a little preview. That is out on the city's website if you want to take a longer look at it.
One more thing Ron wanted to mention. He wanted to mention something about the job fair at the Encore.
So one of the other things I've been involved in for anybody that's interested and might benefit from it is the casino that's over in Everett. So I've been working with them from the day that they came to town. I was one that did the agreement with them. We've had several job fairs. We've had a lot of luck getting Malden residents who are interested in looking for opportunities over there. On April 5th at the Senior Center, 2 o'clock. We're going to do another pre-registration for anybody that sees any jobs out on the website that you're interested in. The way it works, it's basically a chance for all the residents, because of our agreement with them, to get a priority spot to interview on April 25th for some of the jobs that are out there. So they still got several thousand. 2 o'clock at the Senior Center, and the people from from Encore will be there to sort of help you see what you might be interested in, help you sign up, and then they have specific time slots for Malden residents if there's something you're interested in. So Dave's got my contact information. If anybody wants more, feel free to reach out to me directly and we'll try to help you make a personal contact. April 25th is when they're actually doing the job fair interviews on site, but April 5th here at the Senior Center, well, downtown, is when the pre-registration is. So that's when you'd want to come, is 2 o'clock on between 2 and 5 on April 5th. Okay?
Yes, you just have to look at the lobby there. You see all that glass? I think I'd be more comfortable to see some cement barriers out on the sidewalks. Because if a car goes sideways or something, it's going to come right through the lobby because there's nothing there.
Yeah, there's no intersecting street, so they'd have to come down Pleasant.
Yeah, but if a car loses control, which a lot do, it could go right through the lobby.
Yeah, I mean, so I'm running the design committee. I'll forward over to the City Hall design committee, which is Murphy and
There's
going to be some kind of barriers.
They can make them look nice, but they should have something.
All right, folks, we wanted to focus on getting out of here at 8 o'clock. Well, we're not going to, I mean, we might make it. Skip the last thing. Maybe I can schedule either a follow-up or send out an email about that lays out the information I wanted to share with everybody about the cannabis zoning and licensing. Quick update, we have passed the zoning. I will do a quick update if you're interested. So, we passed the zoning 6 months ago. Only is going to be applicable in industrial 1 and 2. Highway business. There's a map out there that shows you which zone is which. And then there's an overlay that goes from basically M&M Liquors on Upper Broadway all the way up to Melrose. But there are a lot of different setbacks that are going to keeps it away from people's houses. 75 feet from any of the property lines. Property line's a property line, so it can't be next to anybody's house. Houses, substance abuse treatment centers, religious facilities, or daycare. 250 feet from property line of any recreational trails or facility, including but not limited to the Malden Teen Enrichment Center, the YMCA, and the YWCA, and 500 feet property line for any public or private K through 12. And that's any of the buildings that have to do with it. For Ward 6, from what we looked at, so the city didn't want to release a full, these parcels are okay, these parcels aren't okay, because they thought that would get people into suing us and saying, oh, you showed us that you could be right here when they missed something on it, right? They missed that that it's actually, 490 feet from the school, and there was some kind of miscalculation. But from what I've seen so far, Ward 6 is basically entirely left out of it. There are people who want to look at some parcels in our ward that want to look at variances, but in terms of the fact we just passed this with specific setbacks, I don't know how likely it is to look at the variance.
Is there any required parking?
Yes, and I wish Craig Spatafora is here. Craig Spatafora is the parking guardian angel of Malden. Okay? If you ever think of anything and you haven't thought of parking, he's going to talk to you about parking. Craig, I didn't put parking notes in here, if you recall.
Oh, what we're proposing?
About the parking requirements for the sites.
I'm sorry, what's that?
Park for campuses.
It was the same, it would be the same parking requirement as retail sales.
Retail sales,
which is, I think it's 3 spaces per 1,000.
Okay, so it's 3 spaces every 1,000 square feet of that facility, and it's
on their property.
On their property, that's right. So that's actually gives you quite a few spaces. I mean, 1,000 feet isn't really big, and it's not going to be in central business. It's not going to be residential. It's not going to be in a lot of different zones. I know this isn't something most people look at every day. I know it's very blurry right now and you can't see it. But in this, I'm going to give you the link to the zoning map. Industrial 1 and 2 kind of runs up along the river. It does run down Eastern Ave, but because this is so close to so many different residences, it bumps it out. Basically, it eliminates a lot of the possibility. If I had a bet where it was going to end up, there'd be, this is probably the most likely place. Upper Broadway up into Ward 8 and on Route 1 look like the most likely places that are going to have the easiest path to licensing, which is the one more thing I wanted to talk about. We have the 5-member Cannabis Licensing Enforcement Commission. It's similar to our liquor board. It consists of chief of police, building commissioner, and then some appointments. So mayoral appointment from a staff, somebody who's going to have fiscal, financial knowledge, so they can ask the right questions about the financial feasibility and stability of any potential licensee. And then 2 resident members, one appointed by the mayor, one appointed by the council. The factors they're going to consider: financial strength and business expertise of that applicant. Make sure they're free of specific criminal convictions. I mean, not like speeding tickets, but a list of types of infractions that should make them disqualified. Location, the commission's going to consider the location not just whether it meets the zoning, but take a close look at that area, at that neighborhood, and whether it meets the needs of that neighborhood, or if it poses any kind of an issue. And then sort of the biggest thing is the support of the ward council, who basically has to be on board with it, and will be the ones responsible for holding public meetings. And I know any of us who have the possibility of this, before going anywhere, are going to definitely have public meetings to have everybody come out and give their opinion about it. So, that is what I wanted to do. There's a host community agreement. I go through this whole slide. Just tells us basically, okay, we've allowed them in the city. This is what we're going to get out of them in terms of fees that they pay. Again, you can look at this more closely when I send the PDF out. And after sitting here for an hour and a half and boring you, now I'm going to make a small pitch. If you do want to come and help us take a little bit more of a hand in the community, we're going to be doing a couple things coming up. We're going to have a clean sweep event. That's going to be May 11th at 8 a.m. So there's going to be 2 parts of it. May 11th, there'll be some volunteers meet down Maplewood Square with leaf blowers and trash bags and brooms and clean the square up, get that all into the street, and we coordinate with Bobby Knox, who's going to get the, there he is back there, Frosty, we'll call him Frosty. So, coordinate with the DPW to get all the street sweepers to come and sweep that, as well as at all your houses. What we ask people to do, if you have a moment that Saturday morning, come out and sweep all any debris and salt and sand, all that residue from the winter, sweep it out into the street, and the street sweeper is going to come and make a pass of that ward that day. And so we should start the spring out pretty nice.
Does that include fallen trees? Fallen trees.
Fallen trees.
The
You might have to take.
obviously is where I live, right? I'm up on Beach View Terrace, highest city,
Lots of fun.
all woods, deer, you know.
And if you want to volunteer for the 4th of July celebrations, those are always a fun time. Might be a little hot, but we'll supply lots of slush and water and a good time. And hope to see you there. Oh, upcoming public meetings that I want to touch on, because I knew we were going to run out of time. Council Winslow is going to have an MBTA-focused meeting on Thursday, 21st of March at 6 p.m. And I didn't put the location on here because they left. I will amend these slides and put that on here for all those who are interested. I know we had questions. There's a number of different issues that are going to be affecting us. Oak Grove is going to get a very extensive, it's poised to get a very extensive renovation. Malden Center itself, the renovations happening there have more to do, less to do with inside of the center and more to do with outside and rearranging where buses go. They're trying to bring all the buses out front, which many of us think is a terrible idea, making probably pedestrians and whatnot less safe. The biggest thing that's going to affect our ward, it's not going to affect us too much, but there's a proposal to stop the 106 bus line, basically at the Malden Melrose line. Unless you're a Malden resident going north into Melrose, like to the hospital. Like to the hospital. Yeah. So the ridership. So they did release all the ridership numbers. They were very narrow. There were some that went north, but it was probably specifically people going from those countries. So don't think that's finalized. They're accepting comments on that, and so that's stuff we want to follow up on. I don't know how you all feel about the plastic bag ban. I did sponsor this. I worked with the mayor's office, and it was written by between help with the mayor's office and a lot of citizen activists. I decided to sponsor it, bring it to the council. We're going to have a public meeting. Councilor Debbie DiMaria is the chair of the Citizens Engagement and has been a great help in scheduling some public outreach. We're going to have at least one session at the Lincoln School, March 18th at 6:30. And we may have another session to put it on a different night, maybe on the west side of the city too. So different geographically and a different night to make sure that people have a chance to come. Because it would affect the way you all go shopping within the city. So on one hand, we want to be do what we can to be not only environmentally responsible, but reduce how much of those bags I see wrapped in the fences and up in the trees. But at the same time, we want to make sure and hear from you whether it's a pain for you to adapt to before we make any big changes like that. I also want to do the school funded 101 and the challenges meeting. That's to be determined. I want to reach out to the folks that are most affected by that, probably the parents of the kids in public schools. And lastly, a lot of you have seen this, that the Cpc recommendations came out. One of the recommendations of the Cpc funds $45,000 towards the design phase for Trafton Park renovations. Councilor Winslow and I are putting in another $5,000. That's just in the design phase. It takes us through about 25% design for the landscape architect, but that includes several public meetings where, again, it opens up to the community to say, what do we want to see there? So there have been there's no dictating of what's going to be there, opening up to the community to say, baseball versus a multi-purpose field versus versus a splash pad, is what do you want to see in there? I don't know who's familiar with some of the conditions there now. We have some fence post footings coming out of the ground, just concrete jutting out of the ground where the kids would be in the outfield, so the baseball doesn't use it anymore. Plus their numbers are plummeting, and I was talking with, Joe doesn't mind me looping him in real quick here. He gave me an idea about how good multi-purpose field is for the kids in the city. So that would be one of the things we talk about within that. No decisions have been made. We want to make sure the entire design process is open to the community. So we have a part of that kind of stuff. Okay? And anybody who hasn't put their email up there, one second. Anybody who hasn't put their email up there who does want to receive these, please make sure you do.
Now, just a quick one on that plastic bag scenario there.
Yes.
What's the alternative that would be considered?
So it would be in what happens in a lot of cities right now. So we actually had our business leaders on Kevin Duffy go out and talk to a bunch of businesses, both big and small, from places like Stop and Shop. They're like, yeah, we do this in every other city. It doesn't matter. So it would be paper bags, or it would be bags you bring with you. Bags that you bring with you, like reusable bags. I mean, I went to Stop and Shop the other day myself, and I just put this thing out there. And I left all my reusable bags with me, and I had my 6-year-old with me. So I walked out there with like 15 plastic bags, and it felt like a hypocrite. So I understand how difficult it is. But once you know, my wife's better about remembering to bring them. We have all these reusable bags.
Dollar Tree.
Please read the information about bacteria that gets in those reusable bags.
Okay. What did you say?
The Dollar Tree store sells up and ever in Walgreens. They sell bags, they're a good square, and they're made out of a cloth of some kind, and they got nice strong handles, and they're reusable.
So it's a good tip.
I guess maybe the question was, I'll think about the blue bag. Down with that?
Oh, okay. So the blue bags are a completely different thing. Completely different thing. And I know a lot of people have said, hey, you're going to tell us to get rid of our plastic shopping bags, but make us buy the blue bags. I wouldn't have voted for it.
Why do we have to pay for it? That was the thing that killed.
So
We shouldn't have to pay.
something was brought up last night that we're going to take a look at to see if we can make something work. We wouldn't totally get rid of the plastic bags. We wouldn't totally get rid of the blue bags, but it could sub in option of a barrel. None of the details have been worked out. We don't know how it works financially. We don't know how it works if you lose a barrel. So all of those things have to be hammered out. We're going to start talking about it. We don't know where it's going to go, because every time you start going down the path, there comes, yeah.
On the recycles now, I'm on my second recycle bin, and dump it, they throw it, it's cracked, the other one was cracked the other too. So I also lost a barrel in my second barrel. This is when we used to use barrels. They threw it, broke the plastic wheels. If JRM is going to do this to the new ones, is it have the same problem?
Yeah, they fling them.
I know
I've
been in Chelsea, they have Russell doing their work. I've been in a couple of days when they were doing it, they took the barrel from the sidewalk, dumped it, walked it back, and placed it back.
You mean professionally? Yeah. So our situation with this contract is that we are nearing the 10-year mark where we get to go shop. Disclaimer, double check with our lawyers if I'm saying this properly. We get to go check the market to see if anybody wants to give us the same services for the same price or less. So therein lies a possible catch to see if we even get out of it. Because that's, we can't just say, it's not just a 10-year renegotiation. That we have a choice to say, nope, I'm going to leave no matter what. It has to be an offer that's the same services for the same amount of money. So they get the last chance to match.
Yeah. And that's only the same services as we get now? we're looking to modify the program to, sorry.
No! You
We're looking to modify, because obviously we feel the same way that the recycling is a big problem with the 18-gallon bins overflow, and tipping over, and whatever. So we're looking at different things to either go A, single stream, or
Yeah, why don't we go single stream?
Well, I believe we almost were at the edge of getting single stream a few years ago, and I think it would have cost us, I wasn't on the council then, so I'm just going by. Single stream is like, okay, so you know how you separate all your plastic and aluminum and paper over here? Yeah, well here's the thing, if you ever watch them, they just pick it up, and they dump it in the same thing.
They don't do it, because I go every week, and they never separate it.
They never separate, they just dump it in the same thing. But for us to get single stream, because they know how annoying it is to have double stream, they say, okay, $100,000 more.
Well, they have to break their contract.
You'd have to negotiate with the breakers. It would be a different
You'd be asking, we'd be mutually breaking. So if they're not going to, their lawyers are going to be good enough to say, yeah, their lawyers are going to be good enough to say, like, we're not going to catch them.
But we have better lawyers, so in the contract, there's a way to change the contract or break it.
Break the contract, you're just paying them for 10 years.
You can change it. They're willing to change it. Once you change that contract, now you're renegotiating.
They'll definitely take it out.
They want big money to change. That 100,000 number is changing.
So if folks want to stay and have a conversation, I don't know. If folks want to stay and have a ongoing conversation, absolutely welcome to stick around for a little while. But in terms of, I'll call the official meeting ended. Thank you very much for coming out.